The fourth one, learn from failure. What's that all about?
This is so important. Learning from failure. That's one of the reasons. The thing that is keeping a lot of people from success is their relationship with failure. They hate it. They avoid it. They will even not try as hard. So the ego in them can say, "Oh, I failed because I did try hard. I did try hard." They don't set high goals because of the odds of them failing. They don't go after what they want because the failure is going to be so painful. And we say, yes, failure is painful. And in some cases, it's embarrassing. However, the way to learn, the way to use failure as fuel is to pull as many lessons as you can from it. What can I learn from failure? What did it teach me? How can it make me stronger? Where was I unlucky? Because a lot of times when we fail, we notice that we were just unlucky in some things. Maybe you did everything you possibly could correct, and you got a bad bounce. Something out of your control that you did not account for happened, and there's nothing you could do about it. And that leads to failure. Now, one of the early exercises that I love to do with people who struggle with failure, if someone listening to this and you're struggling with failure, look back on your past failures. A lot of people don't even want to look at them. They don't even want to examine them. Kobe Bryant has a great thing. He was working with a young college basketball player, and she had a terrible game. And he said, okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to play the tape, and you're going to watch the worst game of your career and stare at it. You're going to stare at your failures. And she goes on to say how difficult that was for her. But Kobe was like, if you want to be great, you have to be willing to stare at your failures in the face. And that exercise is powerful. Look back at past failures in your relationships, in your jobs, and hold yourself accountable. What did I do or what did I not do that led to that failure? And sit with it and embrace it. And it's going to drum up some very uncomfortable feelings. But also, you also want to ask, what did I learn from it? How did it make me stronger? How did it make me better? So that you can take those lessons and use them to move on with your life when you experience it again. Yes, you're going to fail again. And a phrase that I love is, making new mistakes is making progress in disguise. You're going to make mistakes, but make sure you're making new ones, and then you iterate, and then make a new one, and then iterate, and you just stick with it, and stick with it, and stick with it. And part of it as well is in order to learn from failure, you need to know what your first principles are. Who are you? Take away, aside from your job, who are you as a person? What are your values? What do you love? What is your why? What is your purpose? So, because when you fail, you need to realize that failure is an event. It doesn't define who you are. It's not a label, I am a failure. I failed. And so we want to put it outside of us so we can examine it from a distance. And I think this is a powerful principle that we can all learn from. I think athletes do it really great because they have to every single day, but I think we could do it with our own lives every single day.
Why do you think we make it our identity when we fail, or when we win for that matter, of attaching ourselves to that outcome?
I think it happens. I think there's a biological component to it as well, because when we fail, there's a visceral feeling. There's an emotional, it's encoded in our brain because we don't like to fail. It's kind of like when you're a kid and you touch something hot, you're like, ooh, that hurts. That was a physical pain, and now you're even tentative to do it again. You're tentative. You don't want to do it again because you learned from that failure. It was painful. You don't want to experience that again. Now, in some cases in our lives, making the sale, you psychologically touch that hot stove through pain and failure, and your brain is saying, don't do that again. Don't do that again. Don't make that call again. Don't open up your heart up again to another person. Don't go out after your dreams again. And also, people who have failed to protect others will tell them, hey, don't go after your dreams. Don't try to open that business because I failed. It's painful. I love you. Go get a secure job. Go be safe. Play it safe because what you're about to do, the odds are very likely you're going to fail. And I don't want that for you. So go do the safe job. And so I think a lot of it's attached to our identity, and just because it's encoded in our memories because of that loss aversion. Losing feels more painful than winning feels good. After we win, it's like, okay, we win. There's no there's no emotional trigger to it, a memory encoding nature of functionality to it. There is, but not as much with failure. So that's why I think it happens. We're just naturally avoiding it because we don't want to feel the pain of failure.
It's interesting. In 2011, I read in a BYU article that was published in 2016 that you failed at starting your own business, Sue Sports Psychology. What did you learn from that? And how did you embrace that moment to build and create better things in your life?
Yeah, oh my goodness, that was such a great memory. So after I got my master's degree, I was like, I'm going to go open a business. And again, 3 kids. I said goodbye to my cushy teaching job, which was not cushy at all. 3 kids in diapers. I'm like, yeah, this is easy. I can go do it. It was so hard. I lacked every competency, skill that is needed to start a business. I just jumped into it. Oh, anyone can do it. I had no respect for the game. I had no respect for the process, for entrepreneurship. I had no respect for it. And I failed miserably. And it was stressful. And it put a lot of strain on my marriage. It put a lot of strain on my kids. It put a lot of strain on my finances. And I learned so many lessons of the power, the importance of respecting entrepreneurship, respecting the business aspect, respecting the finance, respecting building a foundation. You can't just go out and just go do that. And at least respecting the fact that I wanted to go out. I didn't want a job. I didn't want to have an employer and say, okay, no, I don't need this. I'm going to go out myself. I didn't respect having a contingency plan, having a net, being able to say, okay, let me be smart about this. And so I learned a very valuable lesson really quick and needed to make an adjustment and very quickly because our family's life is dependent on it.